Hey everybody, welcome back to Creating Hanley. I am Kimberly at Creating Hanley, and in this episode we are talking about two patches today. 1-2 patch. Super simple. So I am going to keep it simple. I actually had to go downtown today and almost be picked for a jury, but I found out that when you start asking the lawyers questions, they don't like that. They don't like you pointing out stuff. So they let me go. They couldn't get me out of the hot seat fast enough. They told me I talked too loud, and they didn't tell me I asked too many questions, but they were upset about that. So that's the key that I found out. If you want to get out of jury duty, ask them questions. I mean, they're pertinent to the case, but whatever. They don't like it. So anyway, I digress. We're talking about two patches today. So anyway, if I'm a little tired and look disheveled, that's because I zoomed back home. Two patch, 1-2, super simple. I mean, you can't get any more simple than that, other than a one patch, other than a block, just a simple block, right? So other than the next step up from like a one-piece fabric is a two-piece fabric. So this happens to be a 3-inch square. And I just picked two colors, contrasting colors, and that makes a two patch. This also makes a two patch right here. This is kind of a scrappy two patch. But it's two pieces of fabric, two separate pieces of fabric. So 1-2. This also is a two patch. It's way different, but it's a big piece of fabric and another on the corner there. That's a two patch. So scrappy-ish, right? Definitely scrappy. This is equal amounts of fabric on both sides. So 1.5 and 1.5 makes 3 inches. 3 inches this way, 3 inches this way. Oh, I think it's actually 3.5. I take that back. I think this is 3.5 and 3.5. So this also is a two patch. Technically, this is called a half square triangle because this is a 45-degree angle. This is a perfect square, 45-degree angle. One fabric up here, one fabric down there. Two different. But guess what? It's also a two patch. It's only two pieces of fabric. We don't call this a two patch because it's a half square triangle. That's what this is. And I have another example here for you of a two patch, although this is a half rectangle triangle. And we're going to make one of these on this channel, but half rectangle triangle. So this is a brick, which means a brick is the width. Is it the width? No, the length. I don't know. The short side, the long side is double than the short. That's a brick. So the long side is double the short. So if you have 2 inches here, you have 4 inches here, 3 inches here, 6 inches there, 2.5 here, 5 inches, right? So that's a brick. This also can be a two patch, but it's definitely a half rectangle triangle, half square triangle. This is just an equilateral side, and then these are scrappy, these two patches. So those are examples of two patches. Now let's make one just for fun. You guys, this is easy to make. You can make that yourself. Half square triangle, if you follow my channel. We made a bunch of these last year, but we'll make some more this year. And the half rectangle triangle, I really like making these. These are fun also. And if you haven't made one, we are going to make one in this channel, but maybe a little bit later. So these are just scrappy. You just throw those together. But let's just do one right now. So I have these two pieces of fabric, and if you're just practicing, you don't necessarily need specific measurements. I just happen to cut 2 scraps. These are 2 crumbs in my crumb box that I had, and I just try to like measure them up about 3 inches by 3 inches. So that's what these are. Now I'm going to put both right sides up, right sides together. I'm sorry, right sides up. Happy sides up. Happy sides up. And then I'm just going to cut not a straight line. I'm not cutting a straight line, but I'm going to cut a little bit of a diagonal. And so what you want to do is you don't want to be right on the corner to corner. That gives you a half square triangle. Corner to corner gives you this half square triangle. So you want it to be a little bit wonky, and a little bit wonky can be something like this, but this is only half of that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we're going to come in from the corner, and since this is a 3-inch block, maybe I want to bring it in a ½ inch or so. So I'm going to create a line that's kind of like this. It's not straight up and down, and it's not 45 degree. So I want it a little bit wonky, like off center and off diagonal. It's going to be diagonal, but not 45, okay? So let's just take it over here. Maybe you can kind of see this. Move this fabric. So I'm just going to take both of these face side up, one on top of the other, and then just take my straight edge and find a straight edge like away from the corner and away from this corner and that corner, and again, not straight, but a little bit at an angle, and then just cut that. Make sure that's cut. And now I take it apart and I have 2 sides. So let's take it down here. So you can see that, right? 2 sides now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change these around a little bit. I'm going to switch this to there and this to there. So now this is my 2 patch. I'm just going to sew these together. Now what you don't want to do is, well, there's a couple things. You want to line up these sides. Now you don't want to line up these sides because that's not going to work. So you line up the cut edges. The edges that you just cut, you want to line those up. However, this is an angle. So if you line them up straight corner to corner, you're going to get some loss of fabric. So what you want to do is make this off center, maybe about a 1/4 inch, depending on what your seam allowance. So if you do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, when you open this up, you want this to be level. So I'm not explaining it very well, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So see how I don't bring this edge straight up to the corner and this one's hanging off a little bit? You want to have that 1/4 inch edge there. So it's the really super pointy sides that you want to have hanging off a little bit. The really super pointy sides, okay? So let's do that. Let's put this over here. The really super pointy sides, okay? Now, take it over. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I might have to get my little leader, push that out of the way, and put my pressure foot down so my needle is at the 1/4 inch edge from my pressure foot, and just start sewing. Now I'm also going to chain piece, and chain piecing is when you leave that piece in and you just take the next piece without cutting the thread. Just keep the thread going. And sew straight down on that cut edge, straight off, cut cut these apart. And then when you open this up, so this is the moment of truth right here. When you open this up, you can see this is pretty much level and this is pretty much level. Let me put this over to the ironing surface. So I'm going to iron this, the ironing board. Now, I want to show you on this one. So see how I had about a 1/4 inch off that edge and a 1/4 inch off this edge. Now I didn't sew this exactly. My fabric moved a little bit, so you can see it got a little over on that side. But up here, that's about a 1/4 inch off, and this is about a 1/4 inch off. So when you open it up, it's flat across. Okay? Let me show you here. When you open that up, that's flat across. Now mine's not, it's super exact, but yeah. And then when you trim off the little dog ears, see how that's flat now? See how that's flat flat. And you didn't lose any length on your block. Now you lost width because the seam allowance is 1/4 inch on both sides, so you lost a 1/2 inch. So let's measure this. So if I put this back on the measure, you can see I lost a 1/2 inch right here. That's 2.5 inches. And this is still at about my 3-inch mark. So I lost a 1/2 inch because of the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this is not square anymore. It's not a complete square. So that means if I put it in a quilt block, I need to square it up. So see, I have to cut off this little dog ear, and then this little dog ear at the bottom. Wait, this one right here. Yep. And then as soon as I open that up, yeah, I accidentally snipped this one off. Sorry, guys. But as soon as I open that up, see how that is now level at the top? That's an important part, okay? So that is a cool little tip for you. Now I have a wonky, oh, it's almost 45-degree angle, but it's a wonky 2-patch. Basically, it's a 2-patch. Oh, I'll show you this one instead. I like this because it's off center. So it's a wonky 2-patch. All right, so that's basically a 2-patch. You're just putting 2 different fabrics together and making one unit is what that is. It's the simplest thing you can do besides having just one piece of fabric. You know, all you have to do is take 2 pieces of fabric together. Now, if you want to make bricks, have at it. If you want to make squares, make sure you square it up. So this is probably a square. Yeah. This is 4.5 inches. This is a 4.5 inch square. This is a square. You can have squares, you can have rectangles, but basically all it is 2 pieces of fabric put together to make one unit, one block, one unit. And then you put those units into a bigger block or a project. So you could have a bunch of, where'd my half square triangle go? You could have a bunch of half square triangles and make a 4-patch. And that would be next, a 4-patch. Actually, a 3-patch would be next. So let's do a 3-patch while we're here. So if I just take another piece of fabric and I attach this right to that fabric. So this is going to kind of be a scrappy thing then. Let's take this down here. So push all this off to the side. If I find my right side up here, this is my right side. So I put the right sides together. And this is more of a crumb block. Now I'm kind of building a crumb block right here. All right, 1/4 inch seam allowance right here. And then basically that's a 3-patch right there. So what I can do is square this up. So if I wanted to find the square on here, so the square for this thing is going to be a diagonal here. So what I'm going to do is draw a line. And then I'm going to use scissors. Does that seem right? I don't know. It's an experiment, I guess, at this point. Let's see if that's right. Now, so this is what we have now. So I'm going to take it over to my cutting mat and I'm going to square this up. So that's squared up. And, oh, there we go. Okay, so now we have a 3-patch. So you saw how you saw how I did that, right? So, yep, now I have a 3-patch. And that's how you make a 3-patch. That's how you make a 2-patch, and that's how you make a 3-patch. Super simple. Okay, folks, I think that's it for now. The next one is a 4-patch. So let's practice with those. Maybe we can put a 2-patch in something. But yeah, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.